company is SOTAOG. We actually are some of our solutions are very specific to oil and gas. It stands for state-of-the-art oil and gas. So we're actually, our company in a short frame is real-time predictive analytics. We also do optimization and monitoring real-time. And we're going to talk about a few of the applications that we have deployed today in oil and gas very specifically. A little bit of a background for us. Myself and Robert, we started this company, and we actually bring over 40 years of oil and gas experience to the field. And long story short, actually, we both started at Marathon Oil. So it was interesting to have Emerson go right before me because, at Marathon, we had standardized on Emerson products. And I was, I started off in Eagle Ford where we did 10,000-barrel facilities. And, I kind of followed the script execution-wise. And so we would spend about $2 million just to get data from a standard 10,000-barrel facility. I soon moved on to a smaller independent. And when we went there, we realized, hey, they don't have a budget for $2 million. They have a budget for $3 million to build an entire facility. So we're definitely not getting that kind of dollars to put automation on. Right around that time, actually, Emerson started to come out with their wireless products. And we partnered with them at Carrizo Oil, and guess what? We rolled out a solution, 10,000-barrel facility, about $200,000. So that was a price point that a small independent could afford. So 6 years later, technology has improved considerably. And we noticed there are even smaller operators that need a solution that just can't afford it. They don't have the expertise in-house to do it. And that's where the idea for this company came around, where we are true IoT solution provider. And we have a partnership with GE. And as our technical team, we brainstormed a good, viable, high-end solution that we can market and provide access and add value to our client base. We came up, GE had released a new product called the GE Mini Field Agent. And they came out with the GE Predix platform. So we actually put our solution set together, and we were able to offer an end-to-end solution to our clients. And there are a few examples that we'll talk through. And we'll kind of start with how we started with very simple applications. And we started providing value to the end clients very instantly, within months. And those solutions actually progressed. And that's where you could see where one data point was, we started to move a data point to the financial system. That same data point would get transferred over to EH&S. And that same data point actually helped operations. So that's how flexible true IoT is. And it truly makes technology affordable just to everybody. And one of the big issues is any application that you look at, if you look at one data point, you never get the full picture of that application. So a lot of what we did was we went through, let's look at the next slide here. So here's an example of, they've got automation installed on all of these different points. Yeah, there we go. So you've got pipeline control, you've got RTUs, you've got product flowing through the pipeline, you've got product being hauled off the pipeline. And actually a lot of those data points are very cross-connected. And if you don't look at each application in its entirety, you'll never understand what inefficiencies you truly have in your system and where the problems exist. So one of the most, every time I do a presentation to end clients, the first question they say is, I've got all the data. I'm fully connected. What are you going to do? And actually, our clientele, we have small operators that have like 20 wells, and we have large operators that have thousands of wells. So the data accessibility is just huge, but every one of them see the value in our system. And the reason why is that you really, truly need to connect each application in its entirety to see the inefficiencies in your system. So some of these examples are very specific to oil and gas, but it's just an example. So you have operation systems, and you've got Emerson sensors that are giving you tank levels, or you have a different level. You have a SCADA system that's completely different. That's a generic SCADA system that's hosting all this data. And then you've got drilling designs, and then you've got an EH&S system that's off somewhere. And traditionally what we find is, even in big companies like one of our largest clients, they've got 150 developers in-house on their payroll developing apps for them, specifically to oil and gas. And they've got 130 apps. For whatever reason, one of those apps is not what we provide. Unbelievable, right? So you've got your SAPs, you've got all of this. So really, when you pull all that data through, you need to get it very specific to the application that you're trying to manage. And you've got to pull all the related data points from the different systems and interconnect them to get the full value of it. So here's an example. We started off, actually, this generic project where the vice president of production, amazing. He's disposing salt water on an everyday basis, thousands of barrels. And he said, you know what, Sarah, all I really want to do is know how much I'm disposing every day. Because I get an invoice, and I'm not really sure if I sent 60,000 barrels today or not. And I spend $1 a day. $1 per barrel. So it actually amounts to close to 60,000 or more, and that's really just from one facility. So that was very easy for me to do, given my background. So we put a mag meter on there, and that's when we used the mini field agent, and we ported it over to GE Predict's system. See, from there, it quickly evolved. He was able to see his spend every day, actually as accurate to every 10 minutes. He could balance invoices right away. And then from there, we went to leak detection. We started turning pumps on and off. That actually pumped into that pipeline. So if you can imagine, you have that tank, and you have a pipeline where product is continuously being pushed through. And now if you have a leak in that pipeline, you're turning a pump off. But now it's connected because you see, your tank could overflow. So we started doing condition-based monitoring for their tanks. And they actually already had tank sensors. They didn't need anything over there. So we started to pull that data onto the platform to show them exactly how they're all related and when, and to prevent spills. So essentially from that application, we did leak detection. We're preventing spills. We're giving them real-time financial data. And actually, when we started to estimate truckloads based on the drops on their tanks. So previously, they were kind of doing inventory the other way. If a truck driver or a product went through a pipeline, they got paid. They assumed that's how much they had in the tank or whatever it was. What we did was, because they already had access to tank level sensor data, we started to say, hey, if your rate drops at X number of speed, it's considered a truckload, estimated truckload. And then we actually went, let me see if I can, oops. So if you look right there, this is the barrels that left the tank. And because their trucking is done in a manual system, they kind of eyeball numbers. They leave a printed ticket, which is right here, which we capture. And that printed ticket, actually, they got paid 191 barrels for, which is great for them. As long as they get paid more than what left the tank, everyone should be happy. But right here, what they noticed was, hey, like 300 barrels left the tank, but an average truck can only pick out 200 barrels. So instantly this flagged and said, hey, the pumper or whatever on their receivables, they should have 2 tickets. So these small checks and balances essentially improve their operations. And this solution is usually offered by SAP, Oracle, or some big giant software system that a lot of smaller companies cannot afford. But guess what? Now they can afford it. And they can improve their operations instantly, in days. And here's a solution where we're doing optimization and real-time monitoring on a gas lift injection. It's an artificial lift system, similar to the rod pump. We're looking at tubing, casing, all those pressures. And all of this is coming through the mini field agent, which is a very inexpensive piece of equipment, and with high-powered algorithm capability. So, and this is the predictive analytics engine that we built for one of our bigger operators. And it's interesting to see that this is the company that had 160 apps or 130 apps, but they didn't have an app that actually improved their automation or their production. And production is the bread and butter for oil and gas companies. So previously what happened was, when a compressor went down, these wells are fed by a bank of compressors, and you need high volume gas. So at 3 million, they would make 1,700 barrels from the wells. Now, when one compressor goes down, their supply is constrained to 1,500 million. Now, all of those wells don't produce the same. There's some high-producing wells, and some terrible wells. And because your automation wasn't optimized, half the wells would get kicked off automatically. So depending on where they were and how they were fed and how the controls were wired in or plumbed in, they were down to 800 BOPD or not, or more, or less. So we actually did some predictive algorithms for them. They had the historical data, and we were instantly, when that rate drops, we will automatically calculate and tell them exactly how much MCF should go to which well to get the maximum number of barrels. So it just does enormous number of computations. And this can be used as an advisory role or as an automatic control on the field. So at midnight, if one of the compressors go down, they're not losing 50% of their barrels right away. They're actually losing less than 25% or more. So this is a little bit of an outline of how data is captured, what happens, and how decisions are pushed out. And all of these have been verified by our end clients and tested and proven. So while these are very specific applications right now, we are coming out with a few more, like when we talked about the gas lift and the compression, we're actually going to be doing compressor analytics. And that's going to actually benefit both the OEMs and the E&P operators. And it was interesting that we noticed we're already working with compressor OEMs. As you know, everyone wants the same goal. The OEMs contractually agree with oil and gas companies for 99% uptime. And actually, for them to maintain that 99% uptime, it's a combination of pressures and settings that are actually managed by the piping size and all of that from the E&P side. So actually, for one of our clients, we were able to increase production and uptime for the compressors just by helping both parties manage their pressures once we got the data back. So we are going to be coming out with compressor analytics and everything else, but it's very essential to look at which application and where your issues are, and look at all of the data points that are connected to it to really identify the root cause of your issue. And that's truly, I think, how you improve value in organizations. So as a company, we do try and build more system solutions. And while we also do very specific, isolated solutions, we try to get all the end pieces together. And it's important to, the UI and UX sometimes there isn't a big focus on that. Because, we're industrial applications, right? Who cares how it looks? But on our side, it's very important for the pumper, who might not have a high school education, to understand, because, he's on the front lines managing operations every day. And then of course, there's sophisticated data and financial data that the VP of operations, who's got probably a couple master's degrees, is looking at it. But to truly get that economic value for that organization, that UX experience has to transcend and has to be translatable to all levels of the organization. So that about sums up our presentation. I want to thank GE.